interesting that every time we get to Thursdays here on the Morning Drift, it becomes a personal conversation. Ankey Dorice but just cleared that conversation on the right posture for the entire of this conversation. You're going to see me try attain the right posture just to conform to what we normally do here on Thursdays. I also hope that whatever it is that you're watching from, you're trying to attain the right posture. Be conscious about that. Interesting conversation on that particular area. So let's jump into the next 1 hour of this particular section where we're going to talk about stroke. Do you know stroke? Do you understand anything about stroke? That's what we're getting into. Get your phones online at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. Let's get talking. And to help us understand stroke this morning, we're joined by another doctor on set, Benard Kabue, who is a physiotherapist. Should I leave it there? Benard.
Sure.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us here at Look Up TV.
Most welcome.
Fantastic. Let's begin from a very basic point. What is stroke?
That's a very nice question, especially considering what has been happening nowadays, the urbanization, changes in lifestyle. We have been very predisposed to stroke. So stroke generally is, we would say, it's acute onset of neurological dysfunction.
Yes.
And it occurs because of cerebral circulation dysfunction.
I like the way you say it. You gotta break it down.
Yeah.
You gotta break it down, man. Yeah.
So 2 points here.
Yeah.
Neurological dysfunction.
Okay.
Second, then we should also focus on cerebral dysfunction.
Okay.
2 things: neurological impairment, cerebral dysfunction,
Okay.
cerebral circulation dysfunction. So whenever you look at the brain of a human being, we have got blood vessels that are responsible to supply blood to tissues, to cells within the brain. Anytime the blood has been compromised in this brain, it means that no blood is flowing. That means no nutrients are going to the cells of the brain, no oxygen that is being delivered. What follows is neurological deficit. What's neurological deficit? Your brain, we usually say your brain is the supreme organ. It's the supreme structure that controls everything. So all the sensation, all the information should be taken to the CNS. The CNS means the brain and the spinal cord. Mm-hmm. The brain should now integrate that, should store that, should compare and contrast, and then it should give a feedback, which includes motor feedback. You are able now to remove your leg.
Yes.
You are able to lift your arm that way. So anytime now the brain has been affected, it means there is disconnect between the information that is coming and the way that information is being actualized or being effected.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's all about stroke. That's how it will take place. Now, do you know, it's very interesting because whenever you are seated like this, doing nothing, your heart is pumping, what we call the cardiac output. Your left ventricle is pumping. And for every minute that you are seated like that, your brain needs 15% of all cardiac output that is being pumped. Your brain, just 15% needed by your brain. Within that brain,
doing nothing,
yeah,
but it still requires 15%.
15%.
Yes.
And within that brain within that blood we have oxygen. 25% of that oxygen is being consumed by your brain. It's that amazing. Now, let's look at this. Imagine there is interruption within the vessels within the brain. Whenever we have interruption, it means the cells are not receiving blood. So we say there is ischemia, right? So whenever there is no blood that is flowing, we usually say within 10 seconds, there is no blood that's flowing. Blood has been cut off to the brain. You'll go unconscious within 10 seconds.
That's within 10 seconds of the blood not going to your brain.
Good.
You're going to go unconscious.
Exactly.
Fantastic. We continue from there.
10 seconds, you go to unconsciousness. 20 seconds, it will impair how the neurons communicate within your brain. Now, This is something that's interesting because within your brain, we have got what we call the neurons. Neurons, I would say it's like, they are communications. They are like power cables. The power cables, their function is to ensure they deliver the signals.
Yeah.
So within your brain, we have the neurons that interact with each other to produce the signals.
And probably that's what we have on our screen, isn't it?
Yeah,
if you can actually just get to look at it.
Exactly, exactly. So we have those signals that are communicating.
Yes.
So within 20 seconds, we usually say, it will cease. That communication will stop.
So just to continue, I'm not stopping you, just to continue on that. Somebody who's unconscious, what symptoms are they exhibiting from somebody who's already into the second stage, where now the neurons are not communicating? What symptoms are you looking at within these two people?
Good. That's a very nice question. So within that minute, you're unconscious. That means you are not responsive. Maybe you are even in a coma because you cannot be able to respond to the stimulus, the environment stimulus that are maybe coming into contact with your body.
Yes.
So then after that, it ceases now. The time you're unconscious, it means the electric activity are still happening within your brain. The communications are still happening. It's only that you cannot respond.
That's it.
Yeah. But now within 20 seconds, even the electric activities will stop. Then, within 3 to 4 minutes, that can lead to irreversible cell damage within the brain. And most of the people with stroke will die if not if good measures have not been taken. They'll die within 3 to 4 minutes. They'll be dead.
Hold on. That's quite a scary introduction. I'd save this question for the next part of this conversation. But how fatal is a stroke, Benard?
Stroke is crazy. Let's start with statistic. Let's start with the world in general, because I think it's very crucial for the people to know the monster we are talking about.
Yes.
If you look at the statistic from WHO, they usually say that their report shows that 15 million people worldwide get stroke every year. Now, out of 15, 5 million people will die out of stroke, while 5 million other people will have irreversible disabilities out of stroke. It's interesting. Let's come to Kenya.
Huge.
It's huge. Let's come to Kenya. In Kenya, the WHO report of 2020 showed that out of all the deaths that we experience, around 6% are caused by stroke. That means for every population of 100,000 people, we have 92 people who will die out of stroke. Now, the WHO went ahead and classified Kenya. It ranked Kenya as 81 country in terms of death that are caused by stroke.
By stroke. And that is a big statistic. So revealing. I'll be coming to that. Actually, I just want to get into it as well. Fantastic. We know the numbers worldwide. We know the numbers according to where we are as a country.
True.
Now, let's talk to somebody who's listening this morning and saying, wow, that's huge.
True.
So what happens before a stroke, Benard?
So we have predisposing factors, we have the risk factors, but this is what happens, the physiology of what happens once a stroke it's happening.
Yes.
So stroke can occur because of so many types, like we have the hemorrhagic, we have ischemic, we have TIA, transient ischemic attack. So this is what happens. Anytime a blood has been denied oxygen, has been denied blood, it means there is no oxygen that's going to that cell.
Yes.
So what happens? You remember when we were running about aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So your tissue starts respiring anaerobically, which means they will start reducing the number of active ATP, adenosine triphosphate.
Yes.
The energy levels will start going down. Then it will start producing lactic acid. That means the levels, the balance between acid and base will be reduced, and it will also they will be in balance, and these will be harmful to your cells, to your brain cells. Then the energy has gone down. Remember, we talked about in high schools, people know this biology,
yes.
that there was sodium potassium pump. that would rely on energy, the ATP, for it to be facilitated. And it would be facilitated this way, that the sodium ions should be pumped out of the cells. The potassium ions should be pumped into the cells. This is what happens. So there is no energy to facilitate that. So the sodium will accumulate within the cells. Yeah. So what happens? We also talked about osmosis and diffusions and all that. So the extracellular fluid that is out of the cell now will start going to where there is high concentration of sodium. So in a recruit the other, guys, let's go. So the extracellular fluid is coming to the cells. So what will happen within the cell is the edema. It's that inflammatory process because it's expanding, it's increasing.
Because it's taking so much, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what now we call the cytotoxic edema. So other things that will occur is also the interference between sodium and calcium pump. So sodium and calcium pump. So because we usually know that the sodium should be pumped in and the calcium should be pumped out. So the calcium ions will accumulate within the cells. And we know that calcium ions are involved in excitation of tissues, excitation of neurons. So what will happen is over-excitation, which is harmful to your cells. So there's so many cascade of events that are happening during that time, all the way to calcium also facilitating degradative enzymes, which will break down the cell membrane, like lipase, protease. They'll break down the protein, and your cell, it will be a total mess in that brain.
Yes.
The mitochondria will be affected, no energy, and from there the cells will start dying, what we call the apoptotic.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, since we know what happens before a stroke, Benard, who is susceptible to a stroke? Let's classify these numbers that we're talking about from WHO.
Good, that's a very nice question. Of course, there are causes and there are risk factors. So let's start with risk factors. We have so many risk factors. Some are modifiable, some are not modifiable.
Yes.
If you look at the WHO still, WHO, they were saying, nowadays, initially it was very hard to get people below the age of 40 getting stroke. But nowadays it's so common. You go to so many wards and find people below 40 years, they have stroke. If you dig deeper, you'll find that most of them is hypertensive hemorrhagic. It's a stroke that has been caused because there was mismanagement, or this guy got hypertension which was not put under control.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Got hypertension, which was not put under control. Is hypertension a condition that you can suffer throughout in your life?
Yes. Hypertension it's in fact it's a chronic, because the moment you get hypertension you are put under antihypertensive.
Yes.
But before that they'll try to regulate it through lifestyle changes. If it doesn't respond to lifestyle changes in terms of diet, exercising, then you are put under antihypertensive.
Yes.
So you fight, because hypertension will not show itself. It won't tell you it's not like the way you are hurt somewhere.
Yes.
It's a silent killer.
It's a silent
condition. So it just provokes, it just comes once, knocks your blood vessels, ruptures them. And that's how you get the hemorrhagic stroke. So they realized that most of these strokes that people below 40 years are suffering are attributed to hypertension.
Hypertension, yeah.
Then they went ahead and found that the strokes that are getting people below the age of 65 years are attributed to smoking.
I see that now.
Yeah.
I see that now.
So then they went ahead and found that pediatric or children who got a stroke, most of them, around 80%, were associated with sickle cell. So those children had sickle cell.
Yes.
That brought about stroke, that put them in a higher risk of getting stroke. So the modifiable factors, let's start with the non-modifiable factors. Which are the factors that can predispose you to stroke, but you cannot change them?
But you can't change it.
You cannot change them. First is age. As you get old, you are susceptible to stroke because of because of changes within your tissues, your organs, your blood vessels, and all that. Then another thing is gender. We know that men are more predisposed than women.
By the way, I was reading that stat. Scared me a bit. Why is that? Why is that so bad?
That's hormonal issue. Because if you look at women, I think they are on a safer side always.
Confirming that name why women will live longer than men.
Because of their hormone. One is estrogen.
Yes.
Estrogen is involved in ensuring there is extension and smooth blood flow within the vessels, unlike testosterone in men, which does the opposite.
Yes.
So that's why they are in a safer side considered to men.
Yes.
Then another thing you'll find about this is the non-modifiable is the family history. If your family there was a history of stroke, you got higher chances of
also getting stroke.
Getting stroke.
Is that something that you check from a lady before you get married? Is it advisable? Like,
I think people should discuss about these things, but it's not always. It's not always. It's not always that because your parents had a stroke, you also get stroke.
Yes.
Because maybe what predisposed them to stroke are modifiable factors and not non-modifiable factors.
Yes.
So other things will include like heart diseases, heart problems. People with heart problems are also highly predisposed to this stroke.
Yes.
So then we go to modifiable factors, which are factors that we can modify. And these are the most that are causing these things.
Yes.
And also in non-modifiable, we have diabetes. We shouldn't forget about diabetes mellitus. Diabetes, what it does, it causes pathological changes to your blood vessels.
And diabetes actually is modifiable, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's something that you bring onto yourself?
No. Diabetes, you cannot modify it because once it comes, it's already in your system. Yeah, you will live with it. But hypertension, to some extent, you can modify, but to some extent, you cannot.
Yes.
It depends. So that's why sometimes you'll find a person has been told your blood pressure is too high, consider changing your lifestyle. He changes the lifestyle and the blood pressure stabilizes. So the guy starts exercising, starts eating well, deals with psychological issues, and it stabilizes. But some it won't.
Yes.
So for those who it won't, they will be put under antihypertensives. Now, for the modifiable factors, and these are the most that are bringing about problems in our country right now. Because everybody wants to live a sedentary lifestyle. Nobody wants to
hustle that much, isn't it?
Nobody wants to engage in physical activities.
Yes.
You find the higher population is obese right now.
And it's a bit scary, by the way.
It's scary, yeah. And you know, this is all about African culture. Now, because you have, people will usually say, will look at you and say you are being fed well.
Unakula vizuri bana. You know, you look good, both.
These are the myths and misconceptions that we should deal with. And people should know, because you're obese or you're overweight, that does not mean you're healthy. It doesn't mean that you're healthy. Yeah, you are unhealthy. It doesn't mean that you're eating well. In fact, you're eating bad. That's the problem we have with the African culture.
Yes.
So it's the opposite. It's the opposite. You are very unhealthy.
Yes.
In that state. So other things now in the modifiable include alcohol, and we have talked about alcohol consumption, include smoking. People who smoke will include diet. Right now, nobody is going natural. People fast food.
Fries, chicken, burgers, pizza, we're good to go. We fix supper.
True. So you find that most of the food nowadays are high in cholesterol, they are high in fats, they are high in sugars, they are high in salt. So like every food right now, the processed foods. I think these are things people should look at and stop these things. Let's go natural, exercise a lot. It's not every time you take an Uber. Sometimes leave your car at home. 1 kilometer, just walk. 2 kilometers, just walk, man. If you're not in a hurry. So I think we have become so much lazy in some ways, which is not a good thing. So these are now the modifiable. These are things that you can really modify and try to change them, including even your diet. So the moment you change that, including even the psychological issue like stress, because the stress can trigger that.
Yes.
So if you change all that, you'll find that now your chances are even going down. Let's also talk about going for screening. People should go for screening.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that as well.
Yeah.
It's a good point that you're mentioning it,
Yeah.
because the next part is going to be, well, can it be cured?
Yeah.
And how long can you live if you
True.
get the first attack and then it's put under control?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted to come to.
True.
Screening,
Yeah.
is that something that I should be doing, and how often then should I be doing it?
Good. So one thing we usually say, keep your body is the most precious thing. The moment you get any disease or any illness,
Yes.
it completely messes you up, especially in our country right now. It will exhaust you financially. So ensure you keep check on your body. Go for medical checkups. Even if you cannot make it every 6 months,
Yes.
go after every 1 year. Go do a comprehensive medical checkup.
Yes.
Other things that you can do is blood pressure screening. Go for blood pressure.
People never go for that, by the way. I've never gone for that.
Yes. That's not the
I've
problem.
never gone for that.
And you know the bad thing about blood pressure, it will never tell you that
You know?
Nico. It will never tell
You might be having the symptoms, but you don't know that they could be associated with the blood pressure. Yeah.
So you see, go. You can buy a blood pressure machine. It's a cost of 4,000, 3,500, 2,500. Keep check.
Yes.
Keep check. If you have your old folks or parents at home, buy them one. Let them keep check.
Pretty much.
Their blood pressure.
Bernard,
And
I will hold your thought there, because that's exactly what we're getting into then.
Yeah.
The treatment process, the screening process. And you might be looking at other questions by there that you've looked at right now.
Yeah.
Someone saying, what are the signs of death after a stroke? What is silent stroke? What foods prevent stroke? We're getting into that in the next part. You can also be part of this conversation here. It's a silent killer. It's saying that then, out of the 100,000 deaths that we do experience in the country, that's according to WHO, 92 of those are out of stroke. By the way, if you look at other killers in that list, they are heavy, they're killing. So to get 92 out of 100,000 being stroke, then that's also a huge contributor to the number of deaths that we do experience in this country. Which side are you going to be? Are you going to be a statistic, or this morning Benard is going to help you not be part of that statistic? Once we come back, more on understanding stroke as a disease. Interesting that even off camera, this conversation never stops, because Benard Kabue is saying some people know that they have blood pressure, which is essentially a causal of stroke. Some people are told, well, you have hypertension, but then they never really take care so much. They only would even take the medicine when they're feeling a bit off from the normal body functions. Which therefore takes us to the next part of this conversation, Dr. Kabue. Let's look at it. I'm looking at some of the questions that we have around this conversation. I think we can take them now, maybe 2 or 3 at a go.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody's asking, can drinking water help prevent a stroke? And I'm also asking, according to you, what is the number 1 cause of stroke in the country?
Good. That's a great question. So the number 1 cause, I would say it's the lifestyle. And when I say the lifestyle, I mean the diet, the physical inactivity, the hypertension, all those factors that are brought together. So the way we are living has predisposed us to stroke. So first of all, in this country, people are not health conscious. People don't take priority in health. Right? People don't take priority in their health unless they are off balance. That's when they will start going for medical attention.
Yes.
So one thing I'm saying is that the greatest cause of stroke right now, if you look even at the statistic, they are saying the most number 1 type of stroke is the ischemic, the one that will occur because there is obstruction. And if you look, the reason as to why an obstruction will take place, it's because there was either an embolism or a thrombus.
Yes.
An embolism is any particle or a bubble of air that will try and block the blood vessel. A thrombus is a blood clot that will block the blood vessel.
Yes.
Why will all that occur? There is a condition called atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis occurs because of deposition of fat and cholesterol within your blood vessels. Why would that occur? It's because of the lifestyle, the nutrition that you are taking. You are taking food that are high in cholesterol, high in fats. So the deposition tends to occur. So once the deposition occur, the blood can now clot within that deposition.
Yes.
And once that blood clot dislodges, it goes direct to the blood vessels of the brain, where it goes and shuts that blood vessels, and it blocks the blood flow to your brain. So it completely sets you into stroke. The other thing is that atherosclerosis can form a plaque. That plaque can also dislodge and still go and block that blood vessel.
Yes.
So when the WHO says that the highest type of stroke is the ischemic, which we are also experiencing in Kenya, then that should tell you that there is a problem with lifestyle. That includes our diet, that is bringing about this atherosclerosis, or these thrombus, or these ebolas, and all those factors.
Yes.
So let's check our lifestyle.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking, does drinking water help stop a stroke?
Yeah, that's a nice question. I think that's a person who takes over 6 glasses of water or 8 glasses of water. So that's a very important aspect of it. Water is a very crucial thing in your body because of homeostasis, regulations within your body, but that will not primarily prevent you from getting stroke. What will prevent you from getting stroke is looking into your lifestyle, because even if you take even 5 liters of water every day and you eat the wrong diet and you fail to exercise, you still get stroke. You're at a higher risk of getting stroke.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So what will help is the right diet, and then take your water.
Pretty much. Yeah. Somebody was asking, what is a silent stroke, Dr. Kabue?
A silent stroke, we usually say we have different types of stroke. We have hemorrhagic stroke, we have ischemic stroke, and we have TIA, transient ischemic attack.
Yes.
Now, we have said ischemic is the most prevalent that you'll get in most instances. The worst one is the hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic is the worst, because now these will have the blood vessels will rupture. And once they rupture, it means they'll start forming a blood clot, a hematoma that will compress your brain tissues. And also that ruptured blood which is spilling is also toxic to your cells, to your brain cells.
Yes.
So that's the worst. Then you have ischemic, which will follow that way. Then we have that will occur because of carotid stenosis, the narrowing of the carotid arteries.
Yes.
Then we have now that TIA. TIA is just a minor stroke. Very minor. It's a minor because once it occurs, it can resolve within few minutes or few hours. And that tells you that, young man, you need to check yourself, because a major stroke might be on the way. Yeah.
Now that's the silent stroke.
That's very silent. Some people may
what could be
notice
some of the
it,
symptoms there?
and some people may
not notice it. So
it.
what are the symptoms of a silent stroke?
One of the symptoms is first headache. People will start experiencing headache. I just woke up. There is
I've
this
got a headache that is unnatural, isn't it?
Yeah. There is headache, and people should know. Anytime you experience headache, especially in the morning, don't take it lightly. And there is no explainable cause. Please don't take it lightly. Go and get a medical checkup. Go and see your doctor. Because stroke can mean so many things. It can mean that there is increased intracranial pressure within your brain. So every time you get a headache, go and see a doctor. Then some may have weakness. let me tell you, today I've woken up.
My energy levels, they're not where they're supposed to be.
Some might just feel fatigued. Mazee, today, venye na feel,
it's not where I'm usually at.
Some you might start now noticing speech problems. You're talking but expressing himself is a problem. Some might come with vision problems. There is something we call hemianopia. Homonymous hemianopia. That means this person, the one part of the eye can see and the other one cannot see. So if it's the right eye, you'll see that the left side can see, but the medial side, the lateral can see, but the medial cannot see. They'll start telling you that other things is broad vision. They'll tell you, so these things, they'll start seeing them. So especially for ischemic stroke, so they'll start experiencing in the morning, experiencing headache, weakness, broad vision, hemianopia, and all that. So it's very good. Anytime you start experiencing these things, please go as fast as possible and see your doctor. Because the moment stroke it's noticed earlier, it means we can be able to salvage as many cells, as many neurons as possible before it becomes devastating.
It becomes something devastating. Fantastic. Now, this is somebody really wants to know, what are the signs of death after a stroke? Like somebody goes down, you're like, well, are they gone? Are they not gone? Should we resurgitate this person or we just stop?
So that's a very nice question. The signs of death. So remember what we talked about, the processes that are happening within your brain. And this is something that's starting from immediately from the insert stage, from time the blockage has occurred, from the time the rupture has occurred. So, and by the way, it's very easier to mitigate ischemic than hemorrhagic, because with ischemic, sometimes you give them aspirin very fast, and that can help to loosen up that clot. But for hemorrhagic, you need to take them to theater as fast as you can. As soon as
you can within those 3 to 4 minutes, isn't it?
If you don't manage within 3 to 4 minutes, it's fatal, it's deadly. So one thing you'll notice with these people is check their orientation, their consciousness level. Some will even go into, they'll just go silent. Check on your breathing. People know all these things. They check on their pulse and all those things. So keep checking them, because for hemorrhagic, we will usually most likely will have increased intracranial pressure, because there is hematoma formation. So there is all those things. So you are going to get these people now. They are having what you are saying. There is headache. Their blood pressure is it's going very high, or the pulse rate is going going down. So it's a mixture of things which needs a very critical and a very fast immediate attention.
All right, somebody's also asking, when it comes to blood pressure, what blood pressure level is saying in any minute now I'm going into stroke?
So we usually say we have the systolic and diastolic when you take your blood pressure. So the normal one is between 120 over 80. That's the normal blood pressure. So the moment now the pressure starts hitting above 140 over 100, then you need to keep on check. Have a book, record every day twice, in the morning, in the afternoon, for 1 week. Then go with that book to your doctor and
say, this is exactly what's going on. I think I might be susceptible then to stroke, isn't it?
And then from there, then the doctor can decide, will he put you at hypertension? Will he monitor you for maybe a month with lifestyle changes and try to see what happens?
Pretty much. Now, the bigger one in the room then, somebody's gone into stroke and they have survived. But then you've said, once you go into stroke then, the things that happen to you after. So somebody is asking, what is the process of treatment of stroke and the aftercare then for somebody who's gone into stroke? And on our response, Dr. Benard, I want you to attach this. Somebody who survived stroke, for how long can they live after that stroke?
Good. So what you find out is that people who have suffered stroke, they have higher chances of recurrence, the stroke reoccurring again. And we have this.
What chance is that in terms of percentage?
Let's say there is no stimulated that I have ever seen.
Yes.
But they have more chances.
The likelihood of getting back to the stroke again is very high.
Getting back to the stroke. So you have to monitor them a lot. And there are also secondary problems that will arise from that. So we have muscle tone, we have coordination and movement problems, we have speech problems, swallowing problem, psychological problems. Some may even get DVT, what we call deep venous thrombosis, thromboembolisms, the blood clots, the discharges. Some are even also killed by pulmonary embolism because a clot broke somewhere, a clot formed, dislodged, went to the arteries, the arteries of the lungs, and blocked air entry and all that, and the person suffered from pulmonary embolism, which is fatal and deadly. So there will be those secondary problems that will arise from that. So how do we mitigate these problems and ensure this person goes back to the normal state? So that's now the work. So physiotherapists will work very closely with the neurosurgeon. So once the neurosurgeon operates on you, then the work is handed over to physiotherapist. So physiotherapist has a role to ensure that you're back on your feet, you're able now to do the activities that you used to do initially, but it's a process. Now, this process is it's informed by which type of stroke that you got, which arteries were affected, how severe was it. You find some stroke are mild, some are just moderate, others are severe. So for mild one, maybe within few weeks, he is now able to regain the neurological function. The moderate one, around 6 to 12 months, he is able now to regain some of the function, some of neurological function. But for severe one, it may take even more than a year going further. So those will inform us. Then the other one is which artery has been affected. For instance, the most artery that is affected, the worst that can be affected, is what we call the medial cerebral artery. It's the largest from the others. So for those one, how will they present? So as a physiotherapist, you have to know how will a medial cerebral artery damage present. So you'll find that for medial cerebral artery, mostly it will affect the upper limbs, the face, the trunk. Or the anterior cerebral artery will affect the lower limbs. So you have to know which arteries has been affected. Then from there, you have now to come up with assessment and planning. What will you include in your assessment? Now, your assessment should be guided by what we call neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of a physiotherapist, through the interventions that you are doing, to be able to modify the nervous system, which will include the brain cells, the neurons, to be able to function, to be able to restructure themselves, and get this person into normal processes of working. The way we said, the information is taken to the brain. From the brain, the information is given out so that the motor action can happen in a coordinated way. So this is now what you want to bring back. So you want to ensure there is new synapses that are being formed within the neurons, right? So there was disconnect because of the damage. So as a physiotherapist, you have to ensure now there is regeneration, there is remodification. And this remodification occurs with repetition.
That's where the therapy now comes in,
isn't it?
That's
where the therapy comes. So the more you engage this person, the more you are able to recruit them back to the normal process. So our intervention is 3. So 1, we have the neurophysiological approach. The neurophysiological approach, it's all about neuroplasticity. You want to to bring back the functioning, the structure, the organization of the neurons that have been damaged. Then the other one is the orthopedic approach. Orthopedic approach, you'll find that there is a problem with muscle tone, the joint even cannot move, so you have to ensure there is mobility, there is stimulation of the muscles to be able to go back to their normal function. And then there is motor running and rerunning. So motor running is this person initially was able to feed himself. This person was able to write. So identify the activity that the patient wants to get back to, because every patient need is different from the other.
Yes.
There are those who want you pay attention to them being able to write. There are those who want you pay attention to them being able to stand and walk. There are those who, depending on what the patient wants, you have to concentrate on that more so that you can bring them back as fast as possible.
Yes.
And when working through this, never forget to include the family members, because the moment you work with the patient alone and leave behind the family members, then you may end up losing the aim or the goal. Your treatment goal may not be that effective. So the moment you bring in the family members, you also ensure moral support. You also ensure that whenever you are not with this patient, there is a good follow-up. They are able to keep him accountable. You have to do this. Then you also have to work with other members within the multidisciplinary team, like the nutritionists. This person now has to be at a good nutrition to ensure he is also strong, he is not predisposed to malnutrition and all that, all those things. Then work with the nurses. Some of them, immediately after surgery, after the neurosurgeon have seen them, maybe they are bedridden. Yeah. So you have to ensure that the nurses are there. Talk with the nurses on how shall you prevent bed sores, how will the patient be feeding himself, because sometimes when it comes to motor rerunning, it's what the patient will do himself. Yes. It's not what the others will do to him. So if you want the patient to feed himself, you have to talk with the nurses and tell them, colleagues, look at this. Now, what we want the patient to be able to feed himself. So don't try to feed himself. Let him try it. Even if it takes 40 minutes, it's all right. But provided he brings that spoon to his mouth, that's what we want. So then you have to prevent what we call heminegrate. Heminegrate, if you have seen, is patients, they don't want to use the side that is affected.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they complete, if by the way, some even, it's like it doesn't exist to them. So you have to ensure that they don't forget this side by engaging this side more than the other side. So that's also the neurophysiological approach, because we have interventions that will focus on that you are not going to use this stronger side. We are going to constrain this. You are going to use the affected side, because that now helps the brain in rerunning. That you guys, okay, there was a problem, but there is something coming.
But then there's something coming also from this side, isn't it?
So you also exist.
Yes.
Okay, let's work with you. So all these things have to be put in place. And the moment you bring them together, also deal with pain. Because another secondary problem with these people is pain. They'll tell you the shoulder pain. There is what you call the complex regional pain syndrome. They'll tell you the shoulder pain is there is elbow pain. So you have to ensure you manage those pain, the pain that the patient is experiencing. Others will come with a subluxated shoulder inaanguka chini hivi, right? So, and most of those will become because they saw a certain clinician who mismanaged them, especially if you give that person an upper head exercise activity. What you are doing them, the muscle is already weak. Yeah. The shoulder muscle is already weak. So if you are giving them these exercises, the movement is not being facilitated by the muscle. It's being facilitated, it's coming within a joint. And within a joint, we have structures that will surround that joint. So this will lead to impingement. So continuous trauma of the capsula will lead to constant pain. So you have to be very keen on how you are managing them. Otherwise, you'll bring more problem than we expect. So other things you have to deal with is synergies. Synergies are muscle groups trying to work to bring a certain movement. Now, these people have a certain synergy. If you have ever looked at a person who have suffered from stroke look at the arm, most of them, they will be like this. They'll be like this, and then they'll be like this. This is a synergy you have to work out. You have to break them down, to break these synergies down. So that's where now you have to be very keen on what you're doing, and you have to be very knowledgeable on what you're doing.
On exactly what it is that you're doing.
Because you don't want to encourage this. Otherwise, if you encourage this, then you miss the activity, because this person will never be able to perform activity at this.
Pretty much.
Others will find that the legs is, the knee is overextended, then the ankle is in that position, and then inverted inwards. So these are things you have to deal with, and you have to deal them with immediate effect to prevent brain, because even in neuroplasticity.
Yes, Dr. Kabue.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm fighting my director because you gotta tell Dr. Kabue to stop so that we clear the show.
Yeah.
Guess what? We have to take this offline.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are listening, then you will know exactly how deep this conversation is. It's not something that we can talk about in 1 hour and then done and dusted.
Yeah.
It looks like a silent giant the majority of us do not know.
It's true.
Let's take it offline. Thank you very much for coming. It's gotta be said, man. Thank you very much for coming. All right, that's how we do it here on a Thursdays. It looks as if this is something that we need to talk about, and I'll be taking his numbers. I'll be bringing him back, so we talk about the economy of stroke. Is something we're going to talk about. Once we come back, Ankey, Dorice, and I will be clearing the show.